I found out my husband and our surrogate conceived our son the old-fashioned way instead of through IVF, and now everyone thinks I'm heartless for wanting to give up my parental rights in the divorce. Buckle up. I, 36F, have been with my husband, 35M, for a total of almost 10 years, married for 7. We had what I thought was my child by surrogate over 2 years ago because after 4 years of trying to conceive with no success despite medical interventions, it turns out I am unable to carry a child to term. I had always wanted to be a mom. Devastated is an understatement regarding how I felt when I found out I have a medical condition that would make it nearly impossible to carry a baby to term. It was even more upsetting when I had to get a major surgery to remove uterine growths with the hope to increase fertility, and complications during surgery warranted a partial hysterectomy involving removal of my uterus only. I still had my ovaries, so we started looking into cost of a surrogate. It is really expensive. My close friend since college who'd already had 2 kids of her own offered to serve as the surrogate for us to cut down on costs. After 2 disappointing IVF sessions that did not result in pregnancy, she became pregnant on the 3rd try and carried a boy to term for us. I was so happy and busy after the birth, between being a mom and returning to work after a 4-week parental leave, so I didn't notice any warning signs. I should have noticed the red flags and warning signs early on but did not because I was so exhausted from working so much at my stressful job and 2 part-time jobs to cover most of the bills, and the anticipated medical and legal costs associated with this friend becoming our surrogate. I was the primary breadwinner. My friend and my husband started talking more, and I would sometimes come home from my weekend job to find her already hanging out at our house when my husband was there. I chalked it up as harmless, and it's good for her to know my husband better since she was in the process of hopefully carrying our child for us. I was grateful to have someone helping us have a child. I also thought it weird that our son has brown eyes when both of us have blue. Then I found out that while this is uncommon, it's possible sometimes due to many genes controlling eye color. Recently it all came to a head when I took our son to a doctor's appointment, and they did metabolic panel and blood tests which showed that he had a blood type that is not biologically possible to have with me as his mother. He's B+, I'm A+, husband is O+. Immediately I started worrying it was the fertility clinic's fault and that they'd messed up and implanted a wrong embryo. I started lining up lawyer consultations to possibly sue the clinic and looked into having a DNA parentage test done. The test results showed that I'm not the mother but my husband still is the father. I was angrier than ever, talked to lawyers about medical malpractice in the fertility clinic we'd used. Then my husband confessed that he'd slept with my friend, our surrogate, on a few different occasions during our struggle to have her get pregnant with our embryos. This means what I thought was our son conceived by IVF and carried with a surrogate isn't my son at all and was in fact conceived the old-fashioned way, which I can't ever do. Livid and absolutely broken at the same time doesn't even begin to describe how I feel. I have been breaking down into crying spells over and over again about this. He claims he didn't ever think pregnancy could result because he pulled out, and he had always assumed that he was the reason for our earlier struggles to conceive, both before my hysterectomy and during the IVF insemination process with this friend. I felt an immediate triple betrayal, from what was supposed to be my husband, my friend, and now knowing my child isn't even really mine. I had such white-hot rage and delirium. I immediately left home and stayed at a hotel for almost a week before asking my parents to let me stay at home for a while. I admit I left our son with him. I am now filing divorce because he cheated and betrayed me in the worst possible way. I have also cut off my friendship with my friend, the surrogate, and feel afraid to trust anyone else now. I have seen a divorce lawyer to see about giving up my legal rights to this kid so I don't have to face such betrayal or owe child support. My husband and friend/surrogate admit they were wrong and keep apologizing, but also called me immature and heartless to just give up on my son like that. My parents also say I can't just give up on a kid that I went through so many legal and medical hoops to have. When I told them I refused to stay in a cheater marriage and I'd rather adopt someday with a better, more trustworthy partner, they also told me I was wrong and that maintaining my parental rights isn't much different than if I adopted outright. They said it isn't blood that makes a family. They are all about me divorcing my cheater husband but keep telling me I'm making a mistake giving up my parental rights. Some of my other friends agree with what I'm doing. A few admitted they weren't big enough to swallow pride and care for an affair baby or to see daily reminders of my friend/surrogate's betrayal every time I look at her son. I just want a clean break and a fresh start. I'm also looking at relocating several states away. So am I really that wrong to give up my parental rights in the divorce because a kid I paid a lot of money to have born by surrogacy isn't biologically mine at all, but the surrogates? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. No, you're not the jerk. You've suffered a terrible betrayal. Only you can say what's best for you. Personally, I wouldn't be able to look at the child without being hit with the betrayal again and again. Your parents and friends don't have to actually deal with the situation. They don't get a vote. Your soon-to-be ex is a real piece of work. You're immature? I would want to throw up if I was in the same room with him. Please get some therapy to work through this. Don't let these 2 jerks hold you back from living your best life. OP, he feels like biological maternity shouldn't matter that much when it means I am finally fulfilling my dream of becoming a mother. He says that if I adopt someday, I'm still going to have to raise a child that is not biologically mine. He has reminded me about what a depressive wreck I was during the infertility, the aftermath of my partial hysterectomy, and how I put him through the ringer because I was obsessed with wanting to have a child. He claims that I pushed him away with my baby obsession and he couldn't deal with me anymore, and that's why he started spraying the way he did. He also says that I can't just turn my back on a child when I legally signed all the paperwork, which is similar to adoption paperwork since the state doesn't readily recognize a child born to a surrogate to be the couple's child since they base it on the person who gave birth to the child as being the legal mother until paperwork is signed that transfers the rights over. He also claimed that I am going to have a difficult battle ahead of me trying to reverse that. OP responds on her ovaries/eggs being intact or not. Obviously I have eggs if my ovaries are intact and they extracted eggs to form the embryos prior to inseminating. There's still eggs remaining there. OP explains the process of the fertility clinic being involved. The fertility clinic was just involved in the egg extraction, embryo formation, and storage of eggs and embryos. Another medical practice utilized the in vitro fertilization methods with the person I thought would be our surrogate. He did not pick the surrogate for us. It was a personal friend who agreed to do this out of the supposedly kindness of her heart since she already had 2 prior children and knew that she could carry to term easily and didn't mind being pregnant. Had we gone through a professional surrogacy practice, there would have been other steps involved and they would have found a few options for surrogates for us, but the costs were way too high, which is why we skipped some steps and a lot of money by going through a friend that we thought we could trust. Now I feel like I can trust no one. I don't even feel like I could try surrogacy again far in the future because my trust in that is broken. Update, 5 months later. Hi, I'm low on time right now but will be posting a separate update post later. I'm not staying and I'm not caring for him anymore. I was not even offered a choice in the matter at all, which is why I've kept telling myself I shouldn't want to compare myself to men in a similar type of parentage situation, and have kept myself pretty distant toward the boy I thought was mine. I have no legal rights anymore no matter what because she fought to get her son back. I'm actually a lot more upset about losing this child than I showed in my post, and I'm realizing more every single day that the choice was never mine and I lost. I posted that I wouldn't want to be the sucker raising someone else's kid as more of a cope than anything. She got to have her kid, he left me, and I'm stuck with nothing. Relevant comments. OP explains about being the legal guardian in the question after the maternal test confirmed her not to be the biological mother. OP, and yes, that is exactly what I've been going through all these months. I have little to no rights. I'm stuck coping with major loss. My best chance at still being this boy's guardian is to stay with that awful scrub of a guy, hope he lets me stay, and agreeing to let that slore of a friend have 50-50 and be the chump who still pays most of the bills for that unmotivated scrub sob in the meantime while he continues to cheat. It also came out that she wasn't his only affair either. He's been cheating all along for most of the time that we've been trying without success to get pregnant. So for anyone who acts like I'm selfish, I make their blood boil. They can go screw themselves because they don't know me like that and I don't have any real choice in the matter.